Hey, welcome back to part 3. Today we have the last 2 updates of this cheating story. I hope you enjoy. Let's begin. Hi again, champions. Thank you all for your DMs and comments asking for an update. Sorry to tell you, depression has kicked in. Let me walk you through. Several things have happened in the last months. But today, February 17th, my divorce is complete. I am a single man again. First, let's go back to October 2022. At last, I had a good peak of my life as single man. I've been going to my parents' house to learn to cook. I like cooking a lot. Last weekend I made bread myself. It was kind of ugly but delicious. I'll practice a lot to bake a cake for my godchildren for their birthday next March. Also, I noticed I'm very intolerant towards cheating topics. Have you seen the sitcom, The Office? It used to crack me up, but now that I saw the cheating and gaslighting, it stopped being funny to me, even if they try to hide it as romance. I can't tolerate it. I bet none of the writers have been cheated on. I spoke to my attorney. He mentioned bird brains superseded, and that reminded me, I wanted to have a chat with Frank. Long story short, I met Frank, and he told me bird brain was fired that same Monday I met him. And yes, he was living illegally at Frank's father's house. Since bird brain was his employee for years, Frank made a civic suit for trespassing, meaning he can't be near Frank or any of his properties for the next 5 years. If he does, the cops will be involved. I asked if Jane would be sued too, but he said, bird brain confessed she was unaware of all the situation, and that she just went to the house to exercise with his guidance. They used the repaired equipment to exercise. Besides, Frank assumed Jane and I were still together, and he felt he owed me that. Frank is very cordial and friendly. He was cheated on in his youth, so he has zero tolerance on the topic. He gave me something. He said, "You're gonna love this." He showed me his phone. It was a soundless video from one of his security cameras. It took me a minute to recognize it was showing the gym's cafeteria. All tables are empty but one. There is a man sitting with his back to the camera, then a huge muscular back appears, and I recognize Harry walking towards the man. I ask, "Is that?" Frank nods, and I continue watching. Harry puts his hand on Birdbrain's shoulder, then Birdbrain covers his face with his hands. I can tell they are chatting, and finally both men walk towards the camera, and Birdbrain's face can be seen clearly for a few seconds. Sad expression, red eyes and tears on his cheeks. The video ends when they are out of the screen. We both laughed. I said, "I'm gonna put this video as my screensaver." It was taken the day before Birdbrain was fired. I've gone to my first session with the psychiatrist. He said I have signs of depression, due to my anxiety, combined with my insecurities, so he prescribed a soft antidepressant pill, daily until next session. At the time I didn't feel any different. Also, I started taking kickboxing lessons. My coach told me I have good reflexes, but I have a long way to go. Jane took all her stuff from the condo. She also took our marriage big picture. My brother's friend gave me a good idea. I'll sacrifice the living room to make another bedroom, and make the dining room and kitchen a common area. So, it will have 3 bedrooms. I hired a guy to take care of it. My attorney informed me Jane has her own attorney, and he requested a meeting. I asked what I have to do, and he told me to play along. He'll do all the talking, I just have to agree. Unless my lawyer thinks they make an unreasonable request, he'll ask for a timeout to discuss it. The following week the meeting took place at Jane's attorney's office. Jane was stunning, and very quiet. She was trying to steal glances from me. After the proper introductions, her attorney, male 50-ish, mentioned since I've already refused to pay alimony, the issue concerning to her client won't be mentioned, Jane's adultery. My attorney said that's fine if it is listed for the record, which her attorney reluctantly agreed. Then they proceed to split our assets, which was pretty fast, because I don't want anything, and Jane said she has taken everything she treasures. Besides, we didn't have expensive stuff. Finally, her attorney asked for 5 sessions of marriage counseling, and added, if I agree, and attend with an open mind and honesty, his client guarantees a smooth divorce. My attorney reduced them to 3, and no contact between sessions. I made a worry face to my attorney, and he kicked my foot under the table, meaning to play along. I saw Jane, and she was making a face I've seen, when she really wants me to do something, so I made my face of, okay, you win. And she smiled, marriage language again. Later, I asked my attorney if marriage counseling is necessary. He said it is. Because the judge who will be assigned to our case may agree with Jane, since she's making the attempt of reconcile, while I am not. Or the judge may agree with me, and ignore it. So, attending marriage counseling is a necessary risk. I said she was the one who cheated. He told me I've already asked for a compensation, and the judge will overlook her adultery. The judge has the power to divorce us right there, or he/she may order more counseling, or a period for reconciliation. It's like flipping a coin. Moving on to mid-October, we attended to the first session. We sat on big sofas, one in front of the other, and in the middle the counselor, let's call her Dolores. After hearing all the background, and the main point of our divorce, she asked both of us what we expect. I said I just want to be amicable, but still want a divorce, and Jane said she wants to reconcile. She asked for Jane's opinion about my goal, and she said she doesn't want a divorce, she has never stopped loving me. I was about to argue, but the counselor asked me to not interrupt. Then she asked me about Jane's goal. I said I don't think we can reconcile, because I don't trust her anymore, and I think she's in love with a fair partner. This time Jane wanted to say something, but the counselor asked Jane to not interrupt. Then asked me why I think that. I mentioned the gaslighting, how she was giggling the day before D-Day, and how eager she was to get rid of me on D-Day. It was Jane's turn to talk. She swears she does not love Birdbrain. She has never told him, I love you, because she doesn't. She barely spoke to him during the day, even though he was constantly sending messages to her. She assures me she doesn't know important stuff like his B-Day, but she confessed she liked the thrill, the secrecy, the staring from other people. She wanted to show me from her phone she wasn't talking to Birdbrain that night. I said her phone is useless because she used to delete conversations. Dolores mentioned, there are apps that can recover deleted messages. I said, oh yeah? But Jane was silent, and I could see she was thinking very fast. Dolores, and I stared at her, and she was making nervous movements. I said, will you give me your phone? Jane looked like she wanted to argue, but kept silent. I said, you are still in contact with him, aren't you? Jane almost screamed, no, I swear. But she was hesitant about giving me her phone, and finally she gave it to me, and said, please, remember the Jane who texted is not me anymore. I said, what does that mean? I beg you, don't make me say it. I was in the fog. I asked Dolores about this, a fair fog. She told me from her experience, it looks like the judgment is clouded by the excitement and focus on a new relationship, so the subject's mind can't comprehend, or just ignores the consequences of their actions. It varies a lot from person to person. Jane told me, "OP, I'm deeply sorry for all I texted to him. Now I can't understand why I was so disrespectful to you." At that moment I wasn't sure. I'd want to know what she meant. If she trashed me like Birdbrain did, it would be a massive blow to me. I confided her everything about me. Next, Dolores asked me what it would take for me to reconcile. I told her there are two major obstacles I don't see how to overcome. 1. She lied for a long time, and I can't trust her anymore. 2. I can't be intimate with her ever again, since she gave her body to another man. This made Jane tear. She says it was purely physical, like using a dildo. Besides, she swears Birdbrain wasn't very impressive at all. I reminded her of my reason number 1. She insisted, almost desperate, "OP, I have never made love to him, you are the only one." I just felt angry, and yelled back, "And that's why you didn't touch me for the last months." Dolores asked Jane her reasoning to cheat on me. She spoke about her being the chubby girl, bullied, and ignored. She was very lonely when she was a teenager. At university she was friends with some girls, but they tend to leave her behind. If it weren't for her great grades, they would have completely ignored her. Then we met, and it was like finding a twin soul. When she lost weight, all her fat went to very strategic places that made her look voluptuous. At first it was scary when men stared at her, but when flirty, and her friends told her she's hot and beautiful, and that she must be confident of herself. That's when she started enjoying the attention, and her ego went to the clouds, when she saw Birdbrain staring at her too. She told me, "You don't know how it feels to be ugly." I told her, "I do." I lost count of rejections, and friend zoning. At my job, female colleagues made a list of handsome male colleagues, and I didn't figure in it. I am still unattractive, and I didn't care, because I had a person who loved me. But that person traded me for a better-looking guy. That sentence made her tear again. I belong to an ethnicity, very bullied in my country, associated to poverty and ugliness. I had very hurtful nicknames, and according to my therapist that's what made me gain weight, like an armor to protect my wounded ego. Dolores asked me if I can see she's remorseful. I said, I can tell she is, but just because she's been caught, not for her cheating. Jane said she knows she screwed up, that's why she confessed to all the people we both know. Dolores was especially interested in this confession, and asked Jane why she confessed to people unaware of our marital problems. She said, she knew she deserved a punishment, it wasn't enough my anger and cold shoulder. Many people called her and berated her. She listened to every word, every insult, and every swearing. Sister-in-law can confirm she did. She has lost friendships, and mostly my relatives have disowned her, but she gladly took that bitter step if it would help to reconcile with me. I was out of words. Dolores told me most unfaithful people tend to hide their cheating as a negation mechanism, but Jane didn't. She owned her mistake. That's something I should give her credit for. I asked, what would have happened if I was still unaware? If today I were still clueless? She said Birdbrain was getting very aggressive, and he was demanding either he or she tells me about the affair. He used to scare her saying something would happen to me, and she was afraid what he would do. I scoffed. In her own words, I think you finding out was the best thing that could happen. It made me react and realize how screwed up I was. I told her, I know Birdbrain is in love with her, and she already knew. That's why he hates me, and used to trash me, and he was demanding to disrespect me in my own house. He knew, if I was in the picture, Jane will never be his. Dolores asked me, "What does your wife win, asking for this marriage counseling? If she's so in love with Birdbrain, wouldn't she be eager to divorce you sooner? Why is she making all this effort?" I must remind you, she has already lost her acquaintance's respect. I couldn't answer. I know I'm not her meal ticket. She had a very decent job, and she can get another one easily. She's not homeless nor disowned from her sister. Then I said, for the sake of the argument, let's say we reconcile, and we live together again. What would happen then? I doubt everything she tells me. Every time I'm not looking, I'd suspect. It'd be torture for me. Jane said, "I know it would be difficult, but I'd never give you reasons to doubt me." I responded, "You wouldn't for now, but what about in 2 years, when the dust settles? When I have signs of trusting you again, and another douchebag catch your eye, or stares at you?" Jane kneeled in front of me looking me in the eyes. "I'd never hurt you ever again." The two most devastating experiences I recently had were when I received the divorcing papers, and thinking you may have been badly injured, when they called me from the hospital. If you give me another chance, I'll always remember these 2 times. I thought I lost you, and devote my life to make us happy. I was out of words again, so I just scoffed again. By this time the session was over. At home, I checked Jane's phone. I noticed Birdbrain is still blocked. I unblocked him, and a lot of messages came. "Babe, are you okay? Babe, call me. Babe, I'll go to your house to check on you, unless you call me first. Babe, where are you?" I bought an app to recover deleted messages. I was very nervous. I got most of the earlier messages back. The older ones were difficult, so I only got a few of them. I was expecting her to be disrespectful to me, but she tries not to mention me. I found some sexting conversations, but knowing Jane, she didn't enjoy it. Birdbrain uses rude words a lot, and Jane hates that. He called her babe, and some other ridiculous pet names I didn't even dare to use when we were in the honeymoon phase. Lots of I love yous from him, but I didn't find a single one from Jane. I felt some relief, and then punched myself, because I shouldn't feel that. Also, as Jane said, Birdbrain used to mock me. He called me fatty, pathetic loser, and little girl. Whenever he mentions me, Jane just said, "I don't want to talk about my husband." In the most recent messages, I can tell whenever she didn't play along, Birdbrain got angry, and he told her he was on his way to my job to tell me everything, while she begged not to. Obviously, it was just a bluff. He doesn't know where I work. I looked for the messages at D-Day-1, and she didn't text him. No call records either. I snooped some more, and saw she was messaging to a chat group with Flirty and 2 other girls that night. Kicked out of the group. The next marriage counseling session, it was related to our past. Dolores asked how we met. It was at the university. We both were in the library doing homework. I had the last copy of a certain book. Jane asked me for it, because she had to go home early, but I also had to go to my job, so we both needed it, and I told her we can photocopy it. We were in different careers, but we had the same teacher, so the assignment was the same. We chat while we were in the line. We hit it off, and I noticed how beautiful, intelligent, and kind she is. She just thought I was a good person. I lent her the book, and I got the photocopies. That way she had to return the book to me, and we would chat again. I arrived late at work, but I felt it was totally worth it. We were friendly, until I invited her out, but she turned me down. From there I just greeted her in the hallways like a friend, but I didn't make a move on her. Suddenly a week later she invited me out, I babbled a yes, and we started dating. Next Dolores asked what made us fell in love with each other. In my case it was when I took Jane to eat Japanese food for the first time. She was clumsily trying to eat using the chopsticks, until she had enough, and said fuck this, and she pierced the meat, and ate that way. I'd never heard her cursing before, so it made me laugh, and I said, I love you, for the first time. Jane took longer, but she says it was in a trip we both took. She knew it was going to be our first time being intimate, but she had cold feet, because she thought it would disappoint her father, also she was scared. She thought I would get mad and didn't tell me. At night she started crying, and apologized to me. I told her I'm not mad, and if she didn't feel ready I understood. I want her to trust me, and feel comfortable with me. We cuddled and slept. She realized she felt secure with me, and that was the first time she told me the L word. That session I didn't got angry, nor yelled, and I had a nice time remembering the good old times. I gave Jane her phone back. I told her, I believe her she's not in love with bird brain. She took her phone, smiled at me, and left without a word. She really is respecting my no-contact request. The following Sunday, one of my cousins, let's call her Karen, threw a Halloween party at a bar, and she invited me. No disguises were required. So, I groomed, and attended to the party alone. Karen was one of the many people who received Jane's confession. She wrote her, saying that she'll introduce me to a very hot date, so she introduced me to a friend of hers, a woman in her late 20s, very attractive. Let's call her Princess. I greeted her, and then I saw it. She made a face I've seen several times. Like if I had a giant booger dripping from my nose. A face of disgust and disappointment. I usually don't care about it, because I had my beautiful wife. At that time, I was eager to know how much I've improved myself, seems I haven't, since 18 years ago when I met Jane. She never gave me that look. She always looked happy to see me, that's why I fell fast, and hard for her. Immediately my defense mechanism acted, and I wanted to keep my distance from Princess, but Karen sat us on a booth, and I tried very clumsily to chat, but she barely responds. She took her phone out, and texted while I tried to maintain conversation. Another guy came, and told her, here you are, I didn't know you were coming. Wanna dance? She looked at me, and said, you don't mind, right? I said, go and have fun. I saw them getting lost in the crowd while I kept thinking, so he didn't know she was here, but still he was looking for her. I bet she texted him, come and save me from this creep. I looked for Karen, it took me some minutes to find her. She was talking to Princess. Before they noticed me, I clearly heard her saying, you said he's a catch. He is. And Karen saw me. They immediately got quiet. I said I'm not feeling well, and I'm going home. I told Princess, sorry for not meeting your expectations. She shrugged. Karen had daggers in her eyes. When I got home, I thought she just was some materialistic witch, but she moved some dark old feelings from my youth. I couldn't stop them coming for me, I'll be alone from now on. Childless, wifeless. I am a very unattractive man. It will be very hard for me to build another relationship. I'm almost 45, and alone, a total loser. I had another anxiety attack. My therapist told me what to do. I got under my sheets, covered from head to toes. I was crying, trembling, and sobbing. I don't know for how long until I woke up, very early in the morning. My pillow was wet because of my tears and sweat. My head hurt, and I sat on my bed staring at the floor for almost an hour, lost in my dark thoughts until my alarm rang. It was time to get up, but I didn't. I felt out of energy. I didn't go to the gym. I sat on the shower floor to sob, and I went to work. One of my close colleagues, same guy who lent me his car, noticed I was very quiet and slow. He told me I looked sad, and I finally understood depression has kicked in. The following day, I received some texts from Karen apologizing for her friend. I ignored it and tried to go to the gym, but I felt like my energy was cut in half, or less. I was tired very quickly. I didn't complete my session, and went home. The following Tuesday I took my godchildren trick-or-treating with sister-in-law. In Mexico, we do this on November 1st and 2nd. I cheered up a bit, but when I got home, I felt down again. The third and final session was 3 days after Karen's party. I arrived, and tried to make a good face, but I failed. It took some minutes for Jane to notice I was not the same. She asked me if I was okay. I faked a smile and said I'm fine, but she stared at me, and I couldn't look her in the eyes, and she asked Dolores if we can reschedule, because OP is not well. I insisted I'm fine, but Jane said, "That's a lie. I can tell you're not fine." Dolores asked me what I am feeling. I didn't want to look weak in front of Jane, but then she said, "He's sad." I looked at her, surprised. She sat next to me and asked, "What's wrong?" She grabbed my hand, and this time I didn't reject her. I just saw her big beautiful brown eyes scanning my soul. I'm ashamed to admit, I started to sob. I put my elbows on my knees, and teared a bit. Jane caressed my back, and I regained some composure. My nose was running, and my eyes were red. I went to the restroom, and wet my face. When I returned, and sat next to Jane, I saw she had tears on her face, and Dolores asked me the reason of my sadness. Jane said with a trembling voice, it was her fault. I agreed to be honest, and told her it's not because of her. My insecurities are giving me a rough time. Jane stopped crying, and grabbed my face with both of her hands, and placed it in front of hers, nose to nose. She said, "OP, I really hate when you say you are unattractive." Yeah, I've lied to her about this in the past, especially when I felt I was losing her. Then she started numbering the things she likes about me. She also added, "When I undressed you at the hospital, and you were only in your underwear, the nurse," and I thought, hubba hubba. That's the best translation I could find. That made me chuckle, and I did feel better. I can see you are in better shape than I remember. I did lose another 4 kilograms when all this drama started, but also, I lost some muscle due to lack of sleep and appetite. I glanced at Dolores. She was silent the whole time staring at us. She said, "You both still can work on a new marriage. Your previous marriage is done, but a new concept could work for both of you. That is my advice if you want to take it." Jane loved the idea. I said I'm not sure about that, and I'll discuss it with my lawyer and my therapist. The rest of the session we talked about our life so far individually. I didn't know Jane got another job in a different company doing the same thing she did in the previous one, and she's still doing therapy. I mentioned I'm learning to cook and trying to focus on my mental health. She asked us the good points, and bad points of being separated. I mentioned I am busier, and it helps me to go on. I didn't mention sometimes I miss my wife, but Jane did. She said she hates being alone, and not in her house with her husband, who she loves dearly, and she pressed my hand. I hadn't noticed we were sitting next to each other, and she was still holding my hand. I'm sorry to admit, in that moment of darkness her warm touch felt like a pure ray of light. The session was over. Dolores signed the documents given by our attorneys. We walked together, and I took her to her car, still unsure about my feelings to her. She asked me if the no-contact request was over. I told her, I guess. Then she asked me if we can have a date for my birthday, middle of November. When she saw my face of worrying, she hurried to say it was only a dinner, she just wants us to chat like the good old times. I agreed, but asked for no kisses, and no excessive touching. We agreed to meet 2 weeks later, one day before my birthday. Meanwhile I asked for no contact again. Hi champions. I'm back with the final update. I appreciate everyone in here. It is because of you that today, I have high hopes in my future. Thanks to all of you anonymous strangers, who dedicate time for all the hurt souls, and lead them to heal. This kind of club sucks, but in the shared pain, we find truly kind individuals, who give us a hand just because they've met the same pain. Thank you very much. After meeting Jane, and scheduling a date for our date, I was very confused about my feelings. I had to read my own testimony to remind myself what she did to me, but it was like a different person wrote it. I myself was thinking her cheating was not so bad, also she's remorseful. I saw again her video with bird brain. I wanted to get angry, but I just felt empty. I turned to some of you guys to give me advice trough DMs, and learned that also something exists, called the reconciliation fog. This makes us do the pick-me dance, to forgive cheaters, and excuse their actions in my case. I was deep into this fog, due to my depression, and low self-esteem. Fortunately, I had 2 weeks before my date with Jane. First, I had a meeting with my attorney. He said it was a bad idea. That I should only meet with both attorneys present. I told him it was important to me. It was going to be my litmus test. He said, "What if she's recording you, and presents it as evidence of reconciliation?" I told him I'm still not sure what I wanted to do, that's why I need to see what happens. He shrugged, and said, "You won't be the first one to have cold feet, but if you still want a divorce, you need to evade any reconciliation topic, and no signs of affection." I told him I understood. In the first week, I had an appointment with my therapist, and my psychiatrist. My therapist suggested adopting a pet. It can help me to relieve my depression. I love the idea, because animals tend to like me for some reason. So, I went to a shelter, and adopted a dog. She's so joyful and intelligent. Her name is Samantha. She's a mixed breed, medium size. I went nuts buying things for her, toys, a leash, a collar with her name, a nice warm bed. She did help me to cheer up. My godchildren love her. My psychiatrist doubled my dose of antidepressants, and prescribed a drug to ease compulsive thoughts. My parents, psychiatrist, and therapist gave me the same advice, in short words, do what will make you happy. But I didn't know what would make me happy at the end. I needed something, or someone that would smack me back to reality. It came from the last person I'd think about. I didn't attend my last 3 kickboxing classes, since Karen's Halloween party. My coach, Abraham, male 40-ish, was pissed at me. He met me at the showers to scold me. When I was down, he asked, "Is everything all right?" I said, "Not really." I started telling him about my depression. He has a son currently dealing with the same, and told me to meet him for some beers. So, after class we went to a bar, close to the gym, and I told him all about Jane and bird brain. He was absolutely disgusted, and told me basically everything all you champions have. I spoke about my feelings, and he shut me down and said, "Speak your mind." I was unsure what to say, and he repeated, "What is on your mind?" "I don't care about feelings. Tell me what you want." I opened my mouth like a fish out of the water, but didn't answer. He seemed exasperated about me, and added, "You really, really need to man up." He told me to come earlier to the gym the following day. He paid for the drinks, and told me, "You're gonna be born again." The next day I arrived 1 hour earlier. Abraham was expecting me. He gave me sparring gear, and told me to meet him at the ring. I have never sparred before. I sometimes practiced using a sandbag, but that was it. Abraham told me to punch him. I threw a punch, and he almost laughed at me. He said, "Is this all you've got?" I felt I was blushing. There were some other students watching us, and I'm the oldest person there. I tried again, and Abraham easily blocked me, and pushed me back. I tripped, and fell on my butt. He said, "Your determination is weak." He helped me to stand up, and repeated, "Man up." I heard somebody chuckling, and I felt mad. I took it more seriously, and tried again, and again, and again, but I wasn't able to hit Abraham once. I know he was going easy on me. I was tired, and he told me to come the following day, to repeat. He added, "You're not giving your all. Show yourself what you can do." That comment was glued to my mind all day. The following session Abraham asked some boy to record the sparring, using my phone. Once more I didn't connect a single hit. Finally, we watched the video while he gave me his opinion. My movements were clumsy, slow, and weak. I could protect myself from some of his blows, but my reactions looked like I was panicking. I felt embarrassed just watching myself. Abraham told me to man up, and I must do whatever it takes to punch him at least once. I admitted to myself I wasn't putting enough effort into kickboxing. I started watching videos online. I decided to add an extra hour to my training. At night I was watching the sparring video, studying my movements, and thinking what I should do differently. I cleared my study to make space for shadow sparring. I was so obsessed about showing Abraham my determination, that I absolutely forgot about my problems, and my date with Jane. By the 5th session I was able to predict some of his movements, but still I was slow. I noticed the people watching were incrementing. Later somebody told me there was a bet going. By the 7th day the miracle happened. I saw his fist moving towards my chest, and I knew what to do. It was just 1 second. My body reacted with precision and speed. I punched him on his ribs. I was very glad, but then I saw something black, and the next thing I noticed is my face touching the floor, and Abraham shouting, "Give him some room." I turned my body up. I saw that everyone was in the ring, and Abraham kneeled next to me, and told me not to move. Somebody came with a first aid kit. My nose was bleeding, I was dizzy, and asked, "What happened?" Everybody started talking at the same time. They were excited and joyful. Abraham was apologetic, and told me, "You did it, man." "Sorry, it was a reflex." The kid who usually takes video of us showed me the moment I punched him. Abraham reacted, and punched me back in the face, and I passed out for about 5 seconds. It took me 1 week to connect a single punch on him. I joined the kids and shouted, "Hell yeah!" I was euphoric. Somebody helped me to stand up while I felt someone's palms on my back. I was smiling, and Abraham asked, "I'll repeat my question. What do you want?" I yelled, "I want to be stronger. I want to be the best version of myself." "What about your wife?" I made an angry face. "She betrayed me, she doesn't deserve me." He smiled, and raised my hand like I had won the match. We all yelled. I know it was just a punch. I finally connected, but Abraham knew I needed this victory more than any therapy, medicament or advice, because since then, my confusion, sadness, doubts, all disappeared. Welcome to the last stage of acceptance. The following days I put much more effort into my training, and I took a series of decisions. The old me would think more than once, or ask for Jane's opinion. I change my look, my car, I'll do things I didn't do because of fear, learning to dance, to play a musical instrument. And I'll have my first tattoo. Jane texted me the day before our date. I told her the place and time, and she added, "Don't be late." I felt so much confident about myself. We met at her favorite restaurant, at lunchtime. She was breathtaking as always. I was kind of plain. Jacket, t-shirt, jeans, and hikers. I think she felt very confident of herself. I just smirked and started recording with my phone. We were amicable. My emotions on check. I didn't feel any anger nor rage like last time we met. It felt like when you speak to an old friend, and everything is purely platonic. At least from my side. She asked about my sadness. I told her I feel so much better now, which surprised her. She asked what triggered my insecurities, and I told her all about the princess drama. She was mad at my cousin Karen. She mentioned she will never be ready to see me with another partner. I told her I'm ending a messy relationship with my crazy wife. I referred to her as a third person in the past. She caught what I meant. A very smart idea from one of you champions. Then she told me, "She sounds like a slut, you should get away from her." We laughed. God. How I miss these conversations with her. Before Bird Brain, we could chat for hours. Then she told me one of my coworkers contacted her and asked her out. I laughed. I've seen that weasel secretly staring at attractive women or girls. I wouldn't be surprised if he has stared at Jane. She turned him down, and he got mad. I asked about Flirty. Do you know what's her problem is with me? She says she doesn't know, but her theory is that she dislikes my ethnicity, and she can't stand I have better studies and salary than hers. I'm at least 2 levels above her. Also, Jane discovered Flirty is dating, seriously, 2 guys. Whatever that means to her. We talked about Bird Brain. He called Jane from another number to convince her to run away with him. She swore she didn't speak, she just listened, and cut the call eventually. He's gone to another state. I said some nasty things about him. She was amazed how much of a liar he is, and completely agreed with me that he's a loser douchebag. She asked about the time he and I met. She read it in my post. I told her that seeing him so apologetic gave me confidence. Also, I was pissed, so it was easy for me to threaten him. She pleaded me to repeat the scene, and I did. I told her exactly as I recall what I said, and how I said it. She had her eyes open wide, and she wet her freaking lips. She told me she had goosebumps. She has never seen me so aggressive before. Also, she repeated she liked me more. Then she got all flirty with me, and asked if I want to go, stuffing the muffin. Our euphemism for being intimate, again closest translation. This was it, the moment I was waiting for. Jane was bringing her face closer to kiss me. I didn't have the time to think, but I felt it again, the anger and resentment. My body reacted, and pulled my face away. I made an angry face, and told her in a deep voice, that stopped her immediately, and oh. She apologized profusely. I smiled again, and told her that we should leave. It was late, and I must walk Sammy. I paid for the meal. She didn't bring her car, and asked me to take her to my home. I guess she was sure we were going to spend the night together. I was reluctant, but I wanted to push myself into the situation, just to say no again. When we were in front of my apartment, we could hear Samantha whining and scratching the door. Before I entered, Jane got all serious, and said, "OP, will you ever forgive your wife?" I already did. Then why won't you take her back? Because I will never forget what she did, and I can't trust her. She made a sad face but then asked, "What about me, would you take me instead?" I smiled, and said, "What are you talking about, we're friends." She looked offended. "Are you friend-zoning me?" "I guess so. Dude," and punched softly her shoulder. I thought she would look even more offended, but instead, her eyes sparkled, and she had a big smile. "You finally touched me." That was a surprise for me. Since D-Day I haven't voluntarily touched her. She took a step towards me. "Can I hug you please?" "Sure." She practically jumped on me. It felt so familiar, her voluptuous body that strangely fits perfectly between my arms and chest, her perfume, and her long wavy hair tickling my nose. I hugged her back, and she pleaded, "Let's get back together." I told her, "No, Jane. We are going to divorce." She broke the hug, and stared at my face. I guess she thought I was joking, but I wasn't. She didn't take it well. She was sure we were going to reconcile, and she made a scene in front of my apartment. I tried to calm her down, but she was protesting and yelling. She hugged me tight, like if I was about to disappear. She was begging and telling me she has changed, she will make me happy, and she would do anything for me. And the tears started. I felt sad for her. I don't hate Jane, she was my best, and my only friend for so long, and we both have amazing memories together, but she made a big mistake, and as consequence, I fell out of love. I saw a nosy neighbor peeking from his apartment, and I guided Jane inside my house. Sammy was curious about her. I didn't have any tea to offer, so I warmed some soy milk, while Jane sobbed, and petted Sammy. I sat in front of her, the milk helped her to calm. She asked me, "Do you still love me? Just as the good friend you have been to me all these years?" "Not as a partner, not anymore." She yelled, "Why not?" "I've changed, Jane. I feel different now. I've finished mourning our marriage." She got mad, and said I was being cruel. I said I was being realistic. What I said in marriage counseling was my honest truth. I can no longer trust her ever again. And I will never forget her face when I caught her on D-Day. She shattered my trust and destroyed my love for her. She hit the table and called herself stupid and cursed bird brain. She admitted she didn't know what she had until she lost it. She took me for granted. Then she made some proposals, like granting her a period of reconciliation, opening our marriage on my side, and or to being friends with benefits. I told her she's being unreasonable. She asked me what I want from her. I told her I want her to be happy with whoever she chooses, and I will move on, and be happy on my own. She asked if there is another woman in my life. I told her not yet, but someday. She covered her face with her hands. Sammy was sitting next to her and put her paw on her leg. I realized it was time to walk Sammy, around 10 p.m. Jane came with me. She was very quiet, walking by my side. When we were at the dog park, I took Sammy's leash off and she ran, sniffed and rolled over the dry grass. She loves that. Jane sat next to me, and finally spoke. I'll never find love again. Yes, you will. There are a lot of fish in the pond. She told me at her new job 2 coworkers have asked her out, both are married. I asked, have you reported them? She said it's not possible because they asked for a friendly going out, and that's very innocent from HR point of view. I asked if she's sure about those guys' intentions. She said both have their eyes glued to her breasts. So, she's sure. She placed a picture of both of us on display, like asshole repellent. I laughed. She didn't laugh. She said she seriously thinks she'll be alone from now on, luring scumbags. She can't have children, and she lost the love of her life. She asked me if I'll marry again. I told her I don't think so. I may not believe in marriage again. I didn't mention, I do want to have children. I sent the audio to my lawyer, and days later he told me he didn't find anything showing reconciliation, just useless chit-chat that'd be a waste of time, if it's presented as evidence. Besides, it was a smart move to refer to Jane as a third person, because it sounds like I'm not talking directly to her. On my birthday, most of my extended family texted me, and called to know how I was. I went to my parents' house. My brother and his wife were already there. Jane showed up with all my in-laws. We all played, ate, and enjoyed a big, tasty cake, made by my mom, best cook ever. No drama. Mother-in-law was in a good way that day. She felt confused, but she enjoys watching the twins play, even though she forgets they are her grandchildren. It really was a great day. When we cut the cake, I realized I had everything I wanted. My godchildren are still in my life, I forgave Jane, and my depression is almost gone. Several other things have happened since. In the middle of December, I dated a single mother who tried to convince me to adopt her annoying child. That's a funny ride. If there's a place where I can post about disastrous dates, I'll tell you about it. One of my tenants wanted me to be her sugar daddy. I got my first tattoo on my shoulder. It's an Aztec eagle warrior. Meaning I'm proud of my heritage and my ethnicity. If somebody has a problem with my appearance, I'll just shrug and continue being me. I'm a decent hardworking person. Aztec eagle warriors used to wear a helmet made of the head of a royal eagle. Royal eagles are a symbol of freedom, honesty, and strength in my country. At the end of December, Jane quit her job because one of the coworkers harassing her was a big shot at the company. HR was gaslighting her, so the smartest move was to quit. I spent Christmas with the twins and her family. She's accepting we're done, but she's annoyingly friendly to me. In January, I made a Tinder profile. One of the kickboxing guys helped me making my profile. Although I had few likes, I contacted a junior high teacher. She's witty, and very funny. We started dating. Sadly, I know it's not going to last. She doesn't want children, she's a gamer, and I consider video games a waste of time. Besides, she wants me to stop practicing kickboxing, because it is too violent. As you know, my divorce was over on February 17th. Jane texted me, "I know this is not the end for us." Days later, sister-in-law told me, Jane's got in the depression stage. She begged me to talk to her, because she does listen to me. She stopped working, and she's very skinny. She used to sleep most of the day, and refused to attend therapy, until I talked to her. She wants me to contact her more frequently, but I told her this is precisely what is causing her depression. She has to let me go. That's it. I feel now I'm on the right path. I'm studying a lot, to get the promotion which will allow me to travel. I'm still doing great at the gym. I haven't sparred with Abraham again, but guys there ask me to help them. Finally, I got what I wanted, to be amicable with my ex, and I didn't lose my in-laws, that I still consider as my family. My godchildren love me, and I love them as my own children. I couldn't stand the thought of losing them. Because of them I went through the rabbit hole, I went through the stages of mourning, and I got over Jane. In my country, the godparents are responsible for the kids if anything happens to the mom and dad. Godparents are the second parents. To all who are mourning a marriage, don't let the bitterness get the best of you. There is light at the end of the dark tunnel. It takes time and dedication from you. Maybe not today, not tomorrow, but someday you'll get over all of this. I wish you the best. The end. There we have it. What a long and eventful story. I hope you enjoyed listening along. Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed. Have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow for a new story.